Hello. This isn't actually the main portion of this video. This is actually before the video. I thought I would start out by, before the video starts, explaining what the video was about and including some info I'd forgotten. There'll be also a split in the main section to explain some things further, now that I've had time to ponder and think about it. So, uh, without further ado, I'll explain. So, now, of course, kind of like my Duolingo video, I might get a comment about this. This is sort of something that was kind of a trend quite a while ago, and that is to take a ancestry DNA test with ancestry DNA, which is what this video is. I went and bought an ancestry DNA kit, took the test, got my results, all that jazz. Whatever the case is, so that's what this video is about, is me explaining the process of me buying it, how long it tells me it's gonna, would get to me at this point, because it's the future, how long it would take for them to analyze it, and then what the results were. But yeah, as for why, I'm pretty sure as I'm editing, I'll cringe at myself for explaining now, because I'm sure I probably already explained it, but whatever the case is, you know, it's just one of those things that you definitely have to be, at least if you're from a place like the United States, very interested in. I mean, you don't have to be, but it's easy to be, because so many different kinds of people and places, and mixing of those people and places, um, just with time, traditions, and the knowledge of who you are and where your people come from. That sort of knowledge kind of slips by with a lot of Americans. I feel that we aren't very connected to who our ancestors are. For example, I'm white. Most other whites just know that they are white. They don't know, oh, my ancestors came from England, or my ancestors came from Germany. All they know is that, well, they're white, so somewhere in Europe, and that's basically that's the wall, which is very simple information. I'm not saying that they have to go into that. For me, though, it's a fascinating thing, because with learning about, this sort of thing, there's so many insights, Not only do you get to learn the history of the people you come from, and just what they went through in the olden days, and what it took for your family to get where they got. In the case of being someone from the United States whose ancestors obviously at some point had to come over. The other thing too, though, is that, and this is something I think doesn't get emphasized nearly as much as it should, the ancient people were actually quite brilliant. We don't give them enough credit oftentimes, and they knew things about themselves and each other that are kind of fairly lost with time. Like, as an example, one thing that I have learned is that being we'll go with just very Germanic man, now that I know my DNA results, just broadly Germanic overall. I mean, which isn't nothing new. I pegged that, but the percentages were a little different from what I was expecting. and we'll get into that later. But you know, Germanic people have always been known in general as the giants of Europe, and there was knowledge then that Northern Europeans, or especially, Germanic Europeans such as myself, were known for being big and strong. We had big bursts of power and could lift heavy things and do feats that other men would struggle with. However, came at a cost. Of course, Vikings and stuff like this, they practiced a lot to combat the effects of this. But we're also known for not being very, what is the word I'm looking for? I can think of the concept, but the word is leaving my head. We're not very, we can't keep going on. We're not very, persistent. Here's the word. We don't have endurance. That's what I'm looking for. We're not known for endurance. And for example, kind of like factory work, where you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and you got to keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't lose energy. With the Germanic sort of blood or DNA, whatever you want to call it, we burn through our energy fast, which is something I find with myself is I don't work out much, but I am quite strong. Having worked some trucking stuff with Walmart in the past, I think that period of getting into that really, and when I say trucking, I mean working the trucks in the back room, palletizing, stuff like that, I think really helped define my body more. But I think I also just in general was already pretty set, but also grew really fast in the strength department. It didn't take me much time. However, no matter how strong I am, to keep having to go, I get tired after a certain point, and then I'm just dead, and I don't got the energy in me no more. Because that's just kind of how that works. Of course, people could say other things like I'm out of shape and stuff like this. This is also true. Anyway, that's a little bit too much of a rant for the precursor to the video. But yeah, also, forgive me for having on this random section. I just didn't want to spoil any personal information, or also didn't want to spoil, the actual results now that we're in the future. But regardless, without further ado, we shall get into the actual main content. But yeah. Oh, before that, actually, I lied. I talked about the timing. This is something I didn't really talk about too well. I mean, in the beginning, I kind of talked about it, but then forgot at the end. So I ordered the kit, I think it was like mid to the end of September. I did get a really good discount on it, so that's another reason why I had gotten it, is it was really cheap. I only paid like $40 for the kit, so that was really nice. Now, anyway, so yeah, I bought it mid to end September. I actually didn't peg it coming in till right around now, beginning of November, because it was making it sound like it was going to take quite a few weeks. Forgot how many it said in total, but it said usually it takes quite a few weeks for them to test the DNA. But they did it actually pretty fast. I think as a combination of just where I live being very close proximity state-wise to where Ancestry DNA is headquartered, which actually surprised me. I didn't realize where it was headquartered in Utah. But where I live in a next door neighbor state, I I think that's part of it. It got here quick, so I was able to take the test and send it out quickly. That way they had time to test it, and maybe also just time a year, and it's not as much of a trend as much anymore. Maybe they were able to really quickly get through that. But yeah, because it only took till mid-October, I want to say, for them to get me my results. I do want to, with that though, apologize. It's not that big a deal, but I was meaning to get this video out sooner. In fact, the day of. But, you know, life happens. Sometimes we just get tired. And, in my case, between working a technically full-time job while being a college student, it's been rough on me. I've been neglecting YouTube, not been giving as much attention as I should. Well, not as I should might be a stretch, depending on the view of the person, but I would like to help my channel grow, so it is something I should do if that is a desire I have. So I do apologize for that, but it's not that late. We're only like half a month to a month-ish late, something like that. Anyway, big spiel. I will now get into the main contents of the video.
Hey world, jag heter Zack the Demon Lord. Hey world, this is Zack the Demon Lord, and yet again another YouTube video. This YouTube video will be an interesting one. In fact, this will be the first of its kind. I've never done a YouTube video even close to this type. And what I mean by that is sort of I've had YouTube videos that take time, but not in this sense. Where, like, for example, my hair time-lapse videos, I obviously had to take a picture every single day and then put that together and stuff. But this will be the first type of video that I do a before and sort of after the fact sort of video taking. And then, yeah. Anyway, whatever the case is, as you may or may not be able to guess from the title of the video itself, obviously, this is sort of a YouTube video you would usually watch with someone more popular than I am, but it's a video topic that's out there and something I'm passionate about, so why not discuss it, why not talk about it. But yeah, as the video suggests, I decided to, it's been something I've been wanting to do anyway. I decided to purchase a ancestry DNA kit with ancestry.com. That wasn't specifically the one I wanted to go for, but it does the job, and they had a very good deal, and so I took them up on the offer. I think usually they charge like $80. They have a deal going on, I don't know when it goes till, but for sale for $40. So, that's 50% off, man. That's cheaper than you'll usually see. Usually these sort of things are expensive. But yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, going with that. So, why do such a thing? Let's be honest. If you're taking a ancestry DNA test, chances are you're disinterested in your ancestors. Which, if you know anything about my channel, if you watch my channel at all, that is definitely something I am. I'm interested in my ancestors. It's part of the reason I became a Norse heathen. It's part of the reason I got into wearing kilts. Is I know a little bit about my ancestry, and those are some things that are particular to me that I find special and personal. Another thing too is just to see exactly how the DNA played out and to see what isn't there. Because unfortunately, the other route is to just purely look at your genealogical tree. And the problem with that is, let's say your genealogical tree has a gap, a very big gap. How do you tell what that percentage of who you are is? You don't. You can't. And that's an issue for me. I mean, of course, a genealogist would say, well, how about you go look at records and study names and stuff? I don't got time for that. I'm not a genealogist. Anyway, so that's one issue. Another issue is, of course, there are sites you could pay for, Ancestry being one of them, that have these genealogical trees. But another problem that can happen with some of these sites is that they're putting the numbers in wrong. And what I mean by that is, so if you're familiar with my channel, which at this point no one really is, I don't have that many subscribers yet, you will know that I used to be Mormon. Now, thankfully, as a benefit of having been Mormon, we had a genealogical tree website called My Family Search, something like that. Anyway, it's one of the largest genealogical tree databases in the world, and Mormons happen to have it. A problem with this website, though, is that when it gives you percentages of what you are, it does it by nationality, which is just a very incorrect way to look at your DNA. So, like, for example, I don't know the exact percentage, but obviously a lot of my ancestors moved here to America at some point. So it says, like, I'm 38% American. No, I'm not. I'm not Native American. That is not my DNA. Yes, nationality-wise, I am an American. I am born and raised here in the United States. That does not make me ethnically an American. And so what you end up having to do with that information is you have to do some kind of maths to be like, okay, what are the actual legitimate ethnicities here that my ancestors did come from? Look at that, and then do some math to kind of figure out how much percent gets added to each of the actual ethnicities, so on and so forth. And so I don't know the numbers off the top of my head necessarily, but what it came down to was, like, with the maths of doing that, which would have been incorrect anyway, because there is a quite large gap, is about a quarter Danish, a quarter Swedish, so that gets us to 50% of me. So basically I'm half Scandinavian. And then there was like 30% Dutch, 8% German. I want to say it's like 15% Celtic, with like majority being Scottish, and then the rest being Irish, and then the rest was kind of just up between like English and I think maybe a few other things, miscellaneous items. And so, you know, with that you have to take it with a grain of salt, because I said, you know, you're dealing with you're doing with some rough maths. That's kind of a guesstimate, but then you're also dealing with I said possible gaps, which there is. There is a pretty large gap that I'm not going to be able to figure out on my own, and I'm not about to go pay some genealogist a few $1,000 to figure it out for me. So what do? You take a DNA test. So that's what I'm doing. I know I've had some family members that have done this before. Not like immediate. I know for sure an aunt that took a DNA test, but then again, comparing off of hers, at best, her DNA is going to be a 50% match, and that's assuming that her DNA is like completely similar to my mom's, which, no, is not going to be 100% the same. Like, even if I take this DNA test and I share it with my brother and sisters or whatever, like, it's not going to be 100% match. I mean, it's going to be like pretty close. Like, but let's be honest, each of us are kind of different DNA mixes. Like, yeah, we have the same parents, but ultimately we're going to take different traits from each parent. And so it's not going to be a 100% match. Anyway, my point is to figure out exactly what you are. You kind of have to take a DNA test for that. So we're gonna see in the second half of this video what exactly I am. And yeah, I am excited. It's going to take a while. So yeah, as the recording of this video happens, I'm gonna have to stay tuned. I'm going to be an impatient man. I am. Because it arrives here, like it literally shipped today. It arrives here like a week or so. And then I have to do the test, send it out, I take a look at it. And then after taking a look at it electronically, they send me the results. So we'll see when that time comes. But yeah. Here is future me right now. Alrighty, what's up, guys? Future me here. So we have received our ancestry DNA kit. This is what it looks like. So on the back there are some steps. So what it's gonna have me do is it's gonna have me register my kit. It's gonna have me collect the saliva, and then it's gonna have me return the kit, and then after some time I should be able to see the results, which I'll talk about some of this more in depth after. So I'm gonna open this kit up. Alright, so inside are some detailed instructions. There's also this little box that's inside. This, I believe, is the same box. You might have to send it back in, maybe. Hold up. Might find out. Kind of more or less get the idea. Okay, I see. So let me real quick go fill out this code. I'll be right back. Alrighty, that took me a little bit. Well, not that you'll know, because it'll be instantaneous for you, because I'll cut you to right here. But for me, it's some internet issues, and when you register your kit, it makes you answer a variety of questions. Like it makes you put in the code number, and then just some personal details like name, where you're from, your birthday, stuff like this, so that way they can have information about the person that they're about to be studying the DNA of. So that's step 1 out of the way. Step 2 is, I kind of already opened it, but it's going to have me spit in this here handy dandy tube up to cover information bits up to this line. So yeah, that's what we're about to do. So yay. But without further ado, here we go. By the way, I did suggest to do this after 30 minutes of having eaten, drinking, anything. So yeah. Well, let's go. Alrighty. Again, you will have had a time jump. I've spit to the line. So it wants me to first take off this cap or funnel or whatever. Let's see. And it says I can discard it, so we don't need that anymore, so I can throw that away. Then there is this handy dandy little lid thing that we're going to screw on tight, and then after tightened, it says I think that's all the way on. And now it says for 5 seconds to shake it. Okay, I think that is all the steps for that portion. Now it wants me to take this, put it in this hazard bag, or biohazard bag, I think is the more correct term, right? Let's see. So now we have the tube in is locked biohazard bag. Now I take the this is the return package, and I stick this inside the package, close it up, get everything hopefully pushed back in. Sorry. Okay, there we go. That's pushed in. And then when you're doing this, there's this little thin strip. We take this off. I mean, if you've done an envelope, you know what this is. It's just a little sticky stuff to help close the package back. And so now just seal this up. And now this is ready to go to the post office. Alright, so some details real quick. Like I said, when you're doing this, it does suggest don't eat or drink anything within 30 minutes of doing this test, as that can skew your results. What else? In the tube, the reason why it's having me shake after I spit in there is in the lid cap. You're going to switch it out. The funnel for there's a liquid that's going to preserve your sample. That's why it's important to do that. Now, the last thing I want to say, well, actually, there's two things. First off, I got this relatively quick, but then again, I didn't know this, but I don't live too far from where the headquarters. I did not realize where the headquarters of Ancestry DNA is. So it only took it 2 days to get to me. So that's pretty damn fast, if I do say so myself. Because it does say 7 to 10 days. So, yeah, pretty quick. The last bit of information, it does say once this arrives back at the Ancestry DNA facility, it'll take 6 to 8 weeks. So at the time of recording this, I could see my results sometime end of October, mid-November. So yeah, well, skip to very far in the future me. Well, not very far, but you know, future me. But yeah.
Okay guys, future me here. I know that this section of video, audio quality is not going to be as good, nor is the video of me going to be as good, but that doesn't matter right now, because now we're in the golden nugget of this video. So yeah, I said future me here. We now have our test results from ancestry.com. I'm excited to see what they have to say. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So we're great with the screen, and so I shall click on view my results. Okay. Yep, just view my results. Next. Done. Okay. So this is the results. It is giving me a picture of Matt. Okay, this is gonna be interesting to look over. Okay. So it says Southeastern England and Northwestern Europe, 34%. Okay. So in general, this portion, and it's saying especially this dark green area, that is interesting. Interesting for sure. Back, and it says that 34%. West Midlands 12%. Okay, so like this specific area. Okay. East Midlands. Okay, so this chunk of England. And what was that for? 6%. Okay. Sweden, 14%. Okay, and it's saying mainly from this eastern region of Sweden. Okay, that's a lot lower than I thought. Norway, 8%. And especially this chunk the western chunk. This is Norway, 8%. And then Denmark, 5. And it just basically has all of Denmark, while the main peninsula area in the northern part. Interesting. So, Western Europe, Southern Germanic Europe. Okay, so let's see, this is so the southern part of Germany and what would that be? The northwestern part of Austria, this sort of region. Plus, obviously that's just like the focus. Okay, interesting. Northwestern Germany. Okay, yeah. And that's for 5%. Okay, so I got it. Okay, so just this kind of chunk. Interesting. France, 1%. Okay, and that pretty much just goes over the whole French country, plus Switzerland, Luxembourg, and it's just all the same color. Interesting. Southern Wales. Okay. Yeah. Ulster, Ireland. Okay, so this sort of corner of Ireland. And that's for 1%. Wales was 3, okay. And North Central Europe. Okay, so Poland, Germany, Czechia. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so that's my results. Definitely interesting. So let's see. Because it doesn't give you a total per se. It gives you like separate totals. Let me do some calculation. So it is saying 34 plus 12 plus 6. It's saying I'm 52% English. 14 plus 8 plus 5. 27% Scandinavian. This threw me off though. I wasn't, because from my understanding there's more Danish than Norwegian by like my tree chart, but apparently they have different things to say. Anyway, so what did I say? 27% Scandinavian. 7 plus, we'll go with 7 plus 5. 12% German, basically. 1% French. 3 plus 1. 4% Celtic. And with North Central Europe, I mean, part of that was Slavic, part of that was kind of going over Germany. So maybe we can add like one. We'll just call it all Slavic. So, hey, that's something I didn't know. That I'm 4% Slavic. This has been definitely very interesting. I am pretty shocked. I do have to wonder, of course, saying I'm English isn't a bad thing necessarily. I do have to wonder with the English sort of numbers, percentages, whatever, especially with the East Midlands and southeastern England. where a lot of this would have been Danelaw. I wonder if that would affect, like, because obviously what they're going off of is modern day, what the average DNA of these people is like. But I have to wonder if, like, where the eastern part of England was Danelaw, if technically the Danish number could be technically bigger, if that makes sense. It's a valid question, but whatever the case is, like, I'm fine with the results. It's definitely very interesting though to see. But yeah, well, another interesting thing is too, where this also kind of hovers over like the Netherlands, Northern France, and Belgium. I do have to wonder, what the percentages are then that are from across, in that sort of land. Very interesting. Very interesting. But without further ado, yeah, let's see if these other buttons work. That's what it says for the regions. Let's see if it has anything else to say. Okay. This is like just going over settlers and stuff. Yeah, I knew that my with my family line, where it's a Mormon line, I kind of suspected this. Basically, this is just saying where my ancestors, when they came over to America, where they settled. Yeah, go figure. Utah and Arizona. Makes sense. Match it. Oh, no, go back. Sorry. Heading back. X. By parent. I wonder if we can do this. No, it doesn't give me the by parent thing yet. I think this. Oh, we can try clicking on it. Okay. Okay. So they can actually kind of split it off. I was kind of worried this might be something that would, what is the word I'm looking for? Be something I'd have to pay more for, but it does give me this. So I can also see by parent. So 13% of this this sort of thing, southeastern England, northwestern Europe, 13% was parent 1, and then 21 was the other parent. Sweden was all one parent. So I can kind of tell which parent is which, I'm pretty sure. The Midlands was all parent 1. Norway was all parent 1. Southern Germanic Europe was all one parent. East Midlands was the other parent. Denmark was this parent. Northwestern Germany was the other. So was North Central Europe. And Southern Wales was this parent. So, and the France and the Ireland was also this parent. Which is interesting. So with this sort of information, I can kind of... not necessarily. I will say DNA is definitely an interesting thing. Just because I got these DNA results doesn't mean if I add it all together, it'll directly result in the my parents' DNA results. Because essentially, when DNA mixes and stuff and creates you, just because there's 100% of one parent's DNA and 100% DNA mixing together to create you, doesn't mean, and then kind of levels out to different percentages, whatever the case is. What I'm trying to get to, it's not an exact half-half split where it's like, okay, kind of consider half of the percentages of one, half the percentages of one mixed together to one whole thing. It's not always going to be exactly that. Like, there are people, for example, that have one parent that is, let's say they're 100% Japanese, and then another parent that's like half English, half, I don't know, Irish, but then, that's not a good example, because we need a majority thing with the idea I'm going with. But half English, half Japanese, so we got like a 75% Japanese, 25% English possibility, but then the DNA kind of comes out as, I don't know, 90% Japanese, and so the English traits didn't get accepted as well. So, definitely very interesting, because it shows, I mean, it doesn't make you any less related to your family tree, your DNA, but it's interesting how the DNA plays out, if that makes sense. But yeah, I am, again, thoroughly surprised by these results. I'm sure it'll be an interesting thing to share with my family members. Okay, so this is the brick I was talking about in the actual main video that I took with my phone. Actually, technically this portion would be on a computer anyway, so bah humbug. Whatever the case is, here is the results that we have already seen, which you already knew about. So, and I shall make sure I have handy calculator in hand. So, as said, I've been looking at it more. So we have what it's calling England, Nordic, Western Europe, Celtic and Gaelic, and then Central and Eastern European. And with England, again, just to review, here are our sections for that. And for Nordic, it's really just Scandinavia, but there's that. For Western Europe, the Gaelic/Celtic, and then for Central and Eastern Europe. So I've been looking at this and been pondering, because things just don't quite add up fully, but I think I've begun to understand why the map looks the way it does. So, as said, as is obvious, they obviously have these map clusters. So then the question is, what do these actually represent? Because obviously it's not just going with the border of the country, but rather having a specific area. So, as I pondered, I think this is very much a key clue of history. What I mean by that is that peoples in the past didn't have borders, and so that's why we get these maps, because these are areas with people that have a similar DNA, so this isn't necessarily a 100% match of what country your people are from. So here are some thoughts I have had. The Nordic part threw me off, as I said before. I knew I had a lot of Swedish, and I'm glad it came out on top. Norway, I said, was kind of like a surprise uppercut. I had seen a lot more Danish names and people that said from Denmark than I did Norway, but then Norway just came and uppercutted. For Western Europe, this is kind of key for West Germanic, and in this case it's saying like Germany, basically. Of course, you know, it kind of hovers over Austria and some things with some of this, but yeah, and then France obviously hovers over basically France and part of Italy, and the rest is pretty self-explanatory. So, the Germany one, this one's pretty easy. Like, we can just say France is France, and these two are Germany. That part's not too difficult to say. Wales and Ireland, also not too difficult to say, and North Central Europe is basically just Poland, so that one's also not hard to say. All the Scandinavian countries also. What gets me is the England. Now, this isn't me trying to dog on England and saying I can't be English, but here's the thing. As we see with the map, and I'm just going to click on this since this is the main thing I want to view. This hovers over both sides of the English Channel. And so, historically, what I thought of and realized is England, before it was England, belonged to all the Celtic and Gaelic people. Okay? It didn't have the English, because the English are the evolution of the Anglo-Saxons, and the Anglo-Saxons, that as a term, is sort of a shorthand for the West Germanic peoples that came from just this coastal area over to England, or what is now England, and they took over the part that is England now. And so, with that being said, these sort of Western Germanic peoples would share a lot of similar DNA. That being said, I think that this one specifically is going to be very hard to determine percentages, because essentially what I've come down to is I know I have English ancestors, but I also know I have a ton of Dutch ancestors. One of my family names is Rapley, which to my knowledge was like Raplai, which was a Dutch name. And there's a bunch of other weird Dutch names too. I say weird. Dutch is a cool language, so they're really cool names, but the point is, a lot of Dutch too. So, here's my thoughts. 4% Slavic, right? 4%, we'll just say Celtic, for the sake of it. 1% French. See, doing quick math. 12% German. This will not be quick math. This is what I need my calculator for specifically. 27% Scandinavian, which is still pretty dang good. And so then here's what we're going to do. We're going to split that 34 in half, just for the sake of it. And say it's 17. So 17% Dutch, and then 35% English. Bam. New numbers, because West and East Midlands, that's pretty firmly in the English territory. That does get a little tricky though, because with East Midlands, this technically would have been part of the territory the Vikings took over. So that could also share some Norse DNA or improve on the Scandinavian, but we'll let the English keep it. So that being said, the final numbers, as said, 30. Sorry, it was 35, right? Yeah, 35% English, 17% Dutch. What was the history? Of course, it didn't save. This was like what, 28, 27% Scandinavian. 12% German, 1% French, 4% Celtic, and 4% Slavic. That's what we're going to stick with. You can comment your thoughts of whether I'm cheating with that or not, but I also looked at their broad map, and they don't really have jack crap for the Netherlands. They just kind of tie it in with other countries, which I think is a very stupid thing to do. Because they deserve recognition too. I'm not saying Austria didn't either, or this part of Italy, but I'm just going off with the information I know. I know about German. I know about the Netherlands. I know about the Scandinavian countries and England. I mean, there's other things not shown too. Like, again, this just goes into the whole DNA thing, because just because I have certain ancestors doesn't mean I inherited their DNA. Like, I know I have some Scottish heritage, but it didn't show up. You know? So, that just means I just didn't inherit that DNA, which isn't a bad thing, necessarily. It's just an interesting, lapse that can happen with DNA. You can't exactly pinpoint where all this DNA is exactly coming from. So it's just an interesting comparison contrast thing when you're looking at something like this and something like a proper genealogy sort of thing. In fact, I'm gonna have to jump skip, but I'm gonna show you an example of this. 1 second. Okay, so I'm back. You can't see it in the corner, but as it's not a surprise, at least if you watch any of my videos, I used to be Mormon. So this website is called FamilySearch.org. It is a genealogy website that is owned and operated by the Mormon Church. So that's how I have access to this. They have percentages of what I am too, but based off of the ancestry, so the people that are physically listed like as my ancestors and where they're from, and it uses that data to construe how much percent of what I am. Now, there is a very obvious, glaring flaw with this. A whopping 43% flaw is that it includes the United States and Canada. Why this is a flaw? In the terms of DNA, right? I am not Native American. Thus, I am not 42% American. That's not how that works. So, yes. Some math had to have been done at some point. I do have that in my handy dandy Google Doc somewhere. I should have pulled this up beforehand, but just give me a where is it? I love technology. There we go. So, and this will just be interesting to compare, okay? Because, you know, different results from different things. So I had done some math that was kind of difficult to handle, but I had omitted the United States and Canada. So what I did with that is I took that percentage into factor and then split up everything equally into everything else. I'll let that sink in for a bit. I took the percentages here and from here and spread them across the board. So with that test in mind, with the percentages I had gotten, and I'm going around about 38% British, about 34.5% Danish, about 12, actually we'll just round to 13% Swedish, about 5.5% Dutch, a little over 3.5% Irish, almost 2% Scottish, almost 2% Guern, which is someone from Guernsey, which, if I remember right, was like some island off of France or something. And then almost 2% German. The problem is, though, there's still like a 0.0005% missing with doing the percentages. I don't know how that had happened. I did do this math a long while ago, so yeah. So I will attempt to mix some of this. So let's see. It turns to 40. So with the Danish, Swedish, and Dutch mix, you could say with that version of a test, I am 53% Scandinavian, according to the ancestry that I physically have. As well, you could also say technically that I am 5.5% Celtic, according to this. And way less German, way less Dutch, and a little bit more British. So my point with this is there's all kinds of ways to look at genealogy and DNA, and the DNA doesn't always represent your genealogy. So it's kind of important to keep both in mind, because yeah, sometimes maybe, I don't know, you might have certain DNA that kind of excels a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Maybe some DNA affects you more than other DNA. Just a thought. I do gotta say, though, this is a random thought. Maybe an ADHD thought. Like, whose first thought is this when they think of England? I'm not trying to dog England, but not my first thought. It is very pretty, though, admittedly. It is very pretty. But Denmark and Sweden and the Netherlands and yeah, they're prettier. They're prettier. Anyway, without further ado, though, we'll get back into the video ending. Yeah, it's not gonna take this video out any longer, though. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, share with friends and family that might be interested in my sort of content. This is an oddball one, but is kind of vaguely related, where I like to talk about foreign languages and foreign countries and things. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, hey do.